Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time featuring in the bottom left hand corner MGSsomi, our red Protoss, and in the top right we have Trauma, our blue Zerg. I believe MGS is in platinum and Trauma is in gold, but those roles might be reversed. Regardless, we have a low platinum, high gold Protoss versus Zerg on Antigua. I want to know if MGS stands for Metal Gear Solid or something else. So if you guys can key me in on that one, that would be super cool. Regardless of what fictional character he's representing, he is going to be going for it. Forge, Fast, Expand, throwing down that pylon on the low ground. Totally standard there, especially versus Protoss. And certainly on a map of this size, rush distance is very large. Antigua is an old map. You guys should be very familiar with it. Most notable feature is the Xel'Naga watchtower that overlooks the high yield mineral patches in the north and south side of the main places, as well as an easily defended base for ramp. I mean, you know, the ramps of a medium size. You got a much smaller ramp leading off into your natural. MGS is going off to the top left corner just to see if Trauma spawned up there, but unbeknownst to him, he's cross-spawned, which is great for Protoss because you really want to have a bunch of time, you know, to do your thing. Trauma is past the point of no return when it comes to cheese. He's already up to the 15 supply marks. Got enough money to throw down the pool, and there it goes. Fantastic, nice and classic timing there, and also kind of anti-cheese. It's anti-cheese not because it's the opposite of cheesing from him. It's because it's kind of a defensive. It protects him if there was cheese going from MGSsomi. Not so much a probe rush, not so much a cannon rush, but something like a proxy gate. This will help him defend just a little bit more than something else, something like a hatch first build. And there goes that hatchery. You can see that he was saving up a bunch of money. Speaking of money, bam, there goes the Nexus for 400 minerals for Somi, and he hasn't grabbed any gas, hasn't thrown down a gateway, and hasn't thrown down a forge at all. But he can do that because he came up and saw that the spawning pool was very indeed late, and it is only now spawning. He probably does need to get that forge down, start working on the wall off, but once he hits 18 supply, I don't think he's going to be making any probes for the time being. He'll need to make a bunch of structures just to make it so that this wall is very much secure. It's a very delicate time for Protoss right now. You really don't want to expose yourself just too much to... It's kind of a land grab. You go for that Nexus and you get up an economic lead over Zerg, but every second that you spend without having this wall complete is a second that you spend exposed, and that spawning pool is done. The first round of Zerglings is on its way. We can already see 4 are out, beginning to coagulate down by the natural hatchery from Trauma. So what is he going to do with these 4 Zerglings? Not so much, not a lot at all, because that wall off is pretty much complete. Photon cannon will definitely be done by the time these Zerglings make it out. Now without a Baneling nest on the way, Trauma's going to have no hope in knocking down the door, so there is no hope for us that we're going to see some hyper aggression coming out of Zerg. Indeed, it looks like he's transitioning over to the more macro style of things. Hopefully going to go for kind of a roach bus later on, just so we can have things spice up, because I hate it whenever both players are very much content to sit back, relax on the nigh max supply, and then finally push out with one massive army, and everything culminates in, you know, the 20-minute mark, and it's very boring indeed. It's neat whenever there's a lot of harassment, though, and we can see that Trauma's doing some nice unit control of his Zerglings. Actually, some good unit control from Somi. I'm interested to see if their macro mechanics are going to be slipping. There goes the 75 energy on the Nexus back at home. First assimilator is on its way. The Forge is probably not going to be using that gas. It's probably more for the Cybernetics core. We can see that there is excess gas, excess to the point where he could be doing a +1 weapons upgrade, and maybe that is something that he'll be thinking about doing in the near future. Use that first 50 gas to start on the Stalker instead with the Warp Gate Tech. Probably a wise decision. Don't really need the Stalker to deny scouting, though. It could be that he's more afraid of these guys, these overlords, suiciding in, and that tells me that maybe he's thinking about some sort of hidden tech. It also tells me that I could be reading really, really far into a gold platinum level player. Oh well. We'll see. Extractor is done. Well, this is a really good play, too. Trauma, you're so good. He's pulling all of his workers off the extractor once he got the 100 energy. Or, oh no, you're terrible. No, you're not terrible. You're good, I swear. But, you know, you build, you spend the energy for the extractor, you spend the drone for the extractor, you should get some guys in that extractor and start getting the energy. I thought he already got the 100 gas and pulled the guys off gas once he had the 100 so he could get the speed and then focus more on droning, but no, he just hadn't gotten to it yet, which is fine. That's well, whatever. He's getting another extractor, so he'll be going even harder on that gas. Hopefully going to go tech higher, maybe get a layer out, maybe just roaches for now. We'll have to wait and see. Here comes the 4-gate coming out of MGSsomi. I don't know if this is just for added protection or if he actually intends to do some aggression. Oh no, Baylay that. It's a 7-gate, which is going to be absolutely fantastic, especially if MGSsomi continues to drag his feet on getting some form of higher tech. He needs to get those roaches out. 2 spines and a handful of zerglings are not going to protect him from an 8-gate, especially if it's followed up with some sort of robo play. Get a warp prism out. Oh, there goes the Robotics facility. Fantastic. Get a warp prism out. Drop that bad boy in the back door over here. Maybe, you know, spawn some zerglings, spawn some zealots, pick them up, drop them off at the third. That third gets decimated, especially if some sentries are thrown into the mix to force field off this ramp. I've seen that done to great effect on different maps, not on this map in particular though. Looks like he's going to be using the pylon. Hopefully a warp prism or an observer comes out and scouts the high ground, allowing the pylon to warp in units on the top. I know that was going to get changed in a patch in the I just had like an aneurysm in a patch, a forthcoming patch where they made it so that the pylons couldn't warp in on the high ground, but I don't believe it's taken effect just yet. And I can't figure out how to make it so that the warp in radius for the pylons actually shows up on these casts, and I apologize for that, but I believe that pylon is within range. Grabbing the other 2 assimilators, so he's going to have plenty of gas, but he's not feeling confident enough to actually push out and do any further land grab. He needs to take a third eventually, and I think what he's going to be waiting for is just some aggression coming out of him. Baneling Nest is done, speed is almost done, and the +1 weapons is on the way for for Trauma. Interesting to see that choice. Traditionally, you see a armor upgrade for Zerglings because it's expected that the +1 weapons for Protoss will be taken, and that makes it so that it's a 2-shot for the Zerglings. And since he's getting the +1 grounds, it appears with the Baneling Nest that he's going to be using Zerglings for a while, so a +1 armor would be better to, you know, increase the longevity of those units. These Zerglings coming along with, it's a windfall right there. Scouting the pylon number 1. However, the migration of all of these overlords, wow, look at that speed. It looks like it's going to be some sort of Baneling drop, is what Trauma was trying to do. Unfortunately, he comes over and scouts the Stalkers. Fortunately, maybe, because he's going to be protecting a lot of his ground, his economy back at home with 20 more Zerglings on the way, +1 weapons, moments from finishing. Somi is going to get in here just in time to do some damage. We don't see a Warp Prism out on the field yet, so he's not going to have any other units reinforcing him except for the pylon that's up here on the high ground. All things considered, this is a really nice push. I would love to see some sentries thrown into the mix too, just to force field off the cluster of Zerglings that are pushing in right now, especially accompanied by Queens. Trauma's push is just a moment too late to save this hatchery. This is absolutely fantastic for Somi because, you know, economically speaking, he was very much behind because he was allowing Zerg to basically run amok. But this is exactly what he needed. Doing a fantastic job here, pulling back to meet up with the Zealots to get that meat shield to finish up all of those Zerglings. All of a sudden, Trauma has to scramble to keep his Queens alive, which were doing quite a lot of damage in their own right. But the Stalkers begin to pick them down. I don't think they're going to survive. It looks like there's some fantastic transfuses from Trauma. Manages to pull back to the waiting arms of all the Zerglings streaming in, and then all the spine crawlers up on the high ground. Only one of the Queens does indeed go down. We can see another round of Zealots are coming out, but with all the Stalkers being cleaned up, I don't think Somi should continue to invest in this sort of push. On the other side of things, we do see the Overlords beginning to position themselves down to the right side of the main base for Somi. So if this Baneling drop is going to go, you know, as planned for Trauma, this is a fantastic time to do it. He's cleaned up this drop. He knows that Somi's going to be teching towards something else. I really think it's foolhardy for him to continue with this aggression because right now the Zerglings have them out in open field. There's no map control from those sentries denying the surround from those Zerglings. The Zerglings do have the +1 weapons, and Trauma can basically just continue to mainline units for now. But no, Trauma's just going for the drop instead. He's not pushing it to take out the pylons that he absolutely has to know are there. Actually, does he actually know they're there? Has he scouted them? He scouted 2 of them, which is absolutely fantastic. But, you know, you got to clean those out. You can't expect your third to remain safe. Even if you're throwing up a couple of spines there, those spines aren't going to stop a 7-gate. And with the sheer amount of units coming in, you know that that's what you're going to expect. This is a fantastic follow-up to Somi's pretty successful harassment is that Warp Prism. That Warp Prism's going to allow him to utilize to the fullest that 7 gate, and I hope we see it done down here, where we can see just so many weak and delicate units. The hive, the lair, the baneling nest, the spawning pool even is what he's relying on. Good job there, Trauma, taking out those pylons. Excellent idea. Delay that harassment. Warp Prisms coming out from Somi, scouted that Overseer, and also that Overseer scouted the Warp Prism. So even though this might take Trauma by surprise, it really shouldn't. He's been given ample opportunity to prepare for it. He's got the Evo Chamber down. He could get out some spores, but in reality, all he really needs to do is get out a couple more Queens and a lot more Speedlings. Even though he's going to be using a lot of his Speedlings in this Overlord drop that is forthcoming, morphing in those Banelings up on the high ground as that Warp Prism, complete with a small escort of units, is beginning to move out. Just one observer. I'd love to see a couple more, just because you saw that Overlord speed. It would really help you whenever it comes to the imminent drop play. An Infestor pick coming out of Trauma, a fantastic idea. The placement is not ideal. It's a really good idea to spread out your structures. The 2 Evo Chambers down in the natural is an excellent head start, but personally I like to throw the Infestor pit off behind the mineral line at the natural when it's tucked away in a corner like this, just because it's usually the most resilient of areas, and the Infestor pit is just so important. Infestors are fantastic. You gotta protect them. A small little push coming out from Somi, but this is really just to draw the ire of the Zerglings that are coming out on the field right now. A good drop here, right down on the 4th as it goes down. Wouldn't be surprised to see that cancel. It is indeed good play there by Trauma. He's got really nice reflexes for a Platinum Gold player. I'm very impressed with these guys' play. I'm very surprised that they're actually in Platinum and Gold, and I wouldn't be surprised if my information was incredibly dated and they've actually moved up quite a bit. So I hope I'm wrong. I probably am wrong. This is a bit of a misstep. Check out the production pad. Somi's not making anything back at home. He's got so much money, a lot of gas. I'd love to see a Templar archive, maybe Blink being researched, maybe these gateways morphed into a warp gate tech. Stalkers and Zealots making their way up to the top, begin to be rebuffed by that Spine Crawler. At the same time, the Warp Prism's not doing much except for the Stalkers down on the low ground, scouting the high. Here comes that migration of all those Overlords, and in them, quite a lot of Banelings, quite a lot of Zerglings. And these Zealots have made their way up to the 3rd, but they're going to get cleaned up by all these Zerglings there. It's not too much damage being done, all things considered. On the other side of things, doing some really nice multi-prong harassment here with that Warp Prism, dropping off all those Zealots that targeting down the spawning pool, which we've seen is Trauma's mainstay unit. That Baneling Nest is totally useless without being able to create a bunch of Zealots. I would have, again, loved to see some sentries come over here, force field this ramp, and then those Zealots would have had so much more time to do something here. Oh well, you can't fault him for that, because these Zealots are absolutely doing a fantastic amount of damage. Some good transfuses from the Queen, keeping that hatchery alive. I do not think it's going to fall, and the spawning pool is already beginning to be made. The Dark Shrine on the way is a great idea. We do see one Overseer already out on the field, but it's very aggressively positioned, and we don't have any detection back at home besides those Infestors being able to throw down a fungal growth if you can guesstimate where those dark DTs are going to be. And then with the plethora of gateways out on the field right now, plus the Warp Prism being able to drop those DTs anywhere, it's going to be very devastating. However, MGSsomi does not have a army remacroed. All these gateways are on cooldown. They're well prepared to throw down plenty of Zealots if need be, and here they come to deal with this. Unfortunately, the Banelings are already in the main base. Are they going to waste their energy on the Zealots, or are they going to go to town on all the probes? The saturation for Somi at the main base is a bit oversaturated, and they're all bundled up right by those mineral patches. Those Banelings could have done so much damage. Unfortunately, he's just wasting them. All those Zealots. What a fantastic shot with that one Baneling, though. Just taking down probably half a dozen of those Zealots. As soon as that's cleaned up, Somi's attention snaps back to that 3rd. Unfortunately, that Warp Prism's going to fly directly into the waiting arms of the Queen, as well as the Infestors trying to get a fungal growth down. Some good reactions there from Somi, dropping those Stalkers before the fungal growth could go out and actually hit it. And, basically saving those Stalkers' life, guaranteeing that they make it away alive, even if that Warp Prism did go down, and it didn't take any more damage from that Queen. So, all things considered, a good play by Somi, even though he didn't do any damage. I'd love to see, instead of him pull that Warp Prism back all the way, poke over here. This place is pretty much undefended. That hatchery is very much in the red. And another round of Zealots could definitely do a lot of damage, especially now that DT Shrine is done and the +2 weapons is almost done. However, Trauma moving out with that fantastic unit composition of the Zerglings and Infestors. This definitely requires the Zerglings and the Infestors to hit with a very close timing and to catch the units unprepared. Finally, we see those sentries mixed in, but they're aggressively positioned on the bottom of that ramp. Oh, these Zerglings are pushing forward. Here comes the force fields trapping one of the sentries outside. He gets picked off immediately, but none of the Zerglings get caught in that ramp. At the same time, speaking of Zealots, the Zealots have made their way into the main base and are absolutely going to town on all of those drones. Some good control there by Trauma trying to keep them alive. However, they kite the Zealots away, getting the nice surround on those Zealots, but there's just so many of them with that +2 weapons and +1 armor, doing quite a lot of damage. And the Warp Prism has repositioned itself and shot out a fantastic number of DTs, 13 DTs. They're going to be doing so much damage, and there's absolutely no detection. Trauma has no choice but to push in, do quite a lot of damage of himself, but these Zerglings are having a hell of a time trying to engage in his incredibly narrow choke. Somi, Trauma's played right into Somi's hands. He's trying to spam as many of these infested Terrans, and in reality these infested Terrans are probably going to do enough damage to take down this ramp. However, the majority of the warp gates have already done their job by getting those DTs out on the field, and it's going to turn into a base race, if even that. There's no detection with this army, even though there's a plethora of overlords, and there's plenty of DTs beginning to work on this bundle of joy that we can see. There's almost no Zerglings left alive, and they're going to turn their eyes on the into the Infestors, and these DTs are just doing a fantastic amount of damage. Look at those spine crawlers just melting away. Trauma's going to wonder how he lost this by taking out the main base as well as the entire economy of MGSsomi, but I'm going to have to call this for MGSsomi because he's got this one in the bag. He doesn't have any money left, but those DTs have done quite a lot of damage. Where are they? Where are the DTs? Did they die? Was there detection? Am I just missing this? Regardless, I mean, he's got a Warp Prism out on the field. Those DTs are pulling back. No, they just need to do more damage because are there any structures left? There's a spawning pool as well as a infestor pit. With 6,000 in the bank, Trauma could definitely throw down a hatchery in short order with those Zerglings doing a number on those probes pulling back. Oh, there goes the infestor pit. Wow, that was closer than I thought it was going to be. I wonder where those DTs went. Did they? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Maybe Trauma showed once again some surprising micro mechanics, throwing down a fungal growth to get the detection on those DTs and actually sniping them. I highly doubt that this Overseer moved to provide them with detection, and I don't believe Overseers are detecting units anymore. So I really do not know where they went, but I do know that Trauma did a fantastic push at the end. Unfortunately, without the Banelings morphed in, he needed to change those Zerglings into Banelings. He could have just absolutely just battling rammed down that main gate. It would have been a totally different engagement for him. He could have used that energy for fungal growths on those Zealots instead of the infested Terrans to take out the static defenses here, and then he would have had that energy left over to take out this bundle of structures here. Maybe he could have pulled back with those Zerglings and actually protected his base a little bit more. I don't know. Somi, really nice idea to do the 7 gate into that Warp Prism play. You did a good job using that, especially striking out in the 2 different corners of the map. Keep that up. Keep it up, both of you guys. You guys are fantastic. You guys are fantastic because you watch my casts. If you have a game you want me to cast, you could PM me here or on Reddit. One way or another, I will see you guys later. I am Big and Scary. Bye.